Well, John Lennon, one of the Beatles, once famously sang, "You say you want a revolution. Well, you know. You say you've got the real solution. Well, you know. We'd all love to see the plan because we all want to change the world." And he's right, of course. We all would like to change the world, and as we can see this past week with the events in France, the world needs change. The vexing question is, how? How can we change the world? What method of change leads to changes that last? That is the question that John Lennon and we must wrestle with. It is the question, in fact, that God wrestles with as well. In the Bible, the first 2 chapters of Genesis describe the glorious and the good creation of the world. But as you know, when you keep reading by chapter 5, things are no longer so glorious and good. Chapter 6 begins with these words: "Now the earth was corrupt in God's sight, and the earth was filled with violence. And so God said to Noah, I have determined to make an end to all flesh on earth, for it is filled with violence. I am going to destroy them all." In the face of evil, God's first thought, as ours often is that we can change the world for the better through the use of force and violence, to destroy and conquer those who are corrupt and violent. Such has been the aim of all the wars throughout history. But alas, there is evil still. It does not work, at least not for long, not for God, and not for us either. For even when the identified evil is destroyed, soon as you know, corruption and violence, it arises in the hearts of others like some kind of horrifying whack-a-mole carnival game. When evil and corruption arose again after the great flood, after Noah and his ark, God, ever hopeful, wanted still to change the world. But this time, God decided to try a different way. This time, God tried to legislate the way to a better world. And he said to Moses in the book of Exodus, Come up to the mountain, and I will give you tablets of stone with the law, with the commandments written on them for the people's instruction." Better rules, more just laws, bolstered by the fear of severe punishment as a deterrent if those laws are not lived up to. Surely that will change the world for the better. God thought so, and so often we do too. And it did. It did change the world for the better, at least for a while, somewhat. But changing the law did not change the people. Changing the law did not change the hearts within the people, nor did the fear of punishment. Evil continued still. And finally, in the book of Jeremiah, God says, "The days now, well, they're surely coming, when I will make a new covenant with the people. It will not be like the law that I made with their ancestors, a law which they broke. But this time, I will put my law within them. I will write it on their hearts." so that in their heart they will know me. I will forgive their iniquity, and I will remember their sin no more. God, in the end, chooses to change the world, to mold it, to shape it, to bend it into a better place. Not as God had done before, not through the use of force or violence, not through a more perfect law or the fear of punishment, but through love. Love fulfills the law. That is what Paul writes in his letter to the Romans. Love fulfills the law, and God expresses that divine love when God chooses forgiveness over punishment. I will remember their iniquity no more. God expresses that love when God chooses the way of invitation over forceful coercion and the spirit of compassion over the condemnation of judgment. Such choices are how God changes our hearts. Those choices are the pen. They are the ink with which God writes love onto and into our hearts, as promised in the book of Jeremiah. That is why when God tried to change the world yet once again in the Christmas event, God chose to send not a mighty king or a mighty warrior. God did not send a more righteous chief priest, nor did God send another amendment to the law. God sent a peasant, carpenter, meek, it born in a lowly manger. God sent a child, armed not with the worldly power of this world, but the divine power of love and its ability to mold and transform hearts in the world. Love received in the midst of failure, mercy shown when judgment is due, exchanging blessing for persecution, as it says in the Beatitudes. Those things, those actions, change hearts. And a changed heart, that changes everything. A changed heart changes everything. It changes everything forever for that person. So too it changes the lives of all those around them that then receive the love that is emanating from that person's heart. It inspires love in their own hearts in a rippling effect into this world. When you change a person's heart, you change the world. But you cannot change the world without changing a person's heart. That is God's experience. If we look deeply, it is our experience as well. Yes, in this world of practicality, we must quarantine those with violent intent so as to protect the innocent and the vulnerable, but we must do it using the absolute least amount of force necessary and not 1 ounce more, or we will be led astray. And it is also good that we give thanks and support to the men and women in this world who risk their lives to do exactly that, to quarantine evil on our behalf. The people of the armed services and the police. And again, to protect the innocent and the most vulnerable, we must, in this world, strive diligently for more just and fair laws that ensure the dignity of each and every person as an equally valuable child of God. But to do these two methods, we must also strive, as God does, to write love onto and into every human heart, We must utilize the holy pen and ink of forgiveness, of compassion and invitation, even when, and especially when, we feel justified withholding those things. That is when we need to exercise these actions of love even the more. And the ability to do that, to exercise these actions of love in the midst of these things with apologies to Superman, makes us the super people of faith, within whom the power resides that is indeed faster and more efficacious than a speeding bullet. That is indeed more powerful and effective than any legislation, and allows us to mold the ordinary, uninspiring things of this world to reflect love and to inspire it. The power that changes the world is love. The love that was born in a manger, the love that is written on your heart by the very hand of God. May that be the power that we use to change this world for good.